One-foot-flipper.
Hi, Paige here, the 1-foot flipper. It has been quite a week. At the beginning of the week, I managed to back my van into my wife's car. Isn't that great? I mean, they're both cheap vehicles that are, not going to have full coverage insurance anyway. But yeah, I, go many years without an accident, then back one of my vehicles into another one of them. There were two women, a woman and a young woman, both squawking into my ear while I was pulling out. My wife should have never parked where she parked, but it's still my fault ultimately because I'm the one who did it. Now I'm sitting on my porch because I'm tempted to take my daughter to the optometrist, but I grabbed the wrong set of keys. Instead of grabbing the keys that open our house and the vehicle, I grabbed the set of keys that goes to the shed and all the derelict vehicle, the vehicles that are not normally driven. And so now I'm both locked out of the house and locked out of the cars. So this week is going great so far. How's your week been going? So I've been thinking a lot about markdown schedules lately. And I don't know if one single markdown schedule is appropriate for all stores, or even one single markdown schedule is appropriate for your store. Because some things are, high velocity, high sell-through rate items, that you don't necessarily, that they can be marked down very fast. Like when I had 5 game consoles, I had 50 game consoles to sell. Was I marking them down once a month or once every 3 months? No, I marked them down $1 each every day, and they were all gone within 10 days. So, got me thinking about, should maybe people use their store categories not as much as for real categories of items, or maybe you can use a secondary store category, but for what sort of markdown schedule the items should be on. You've got your super long tail items, you've got the only one on eBay item that you may never want to mark down, or you want to mark down very slowly, once a year, once every 6 months. Really all depends on you. You've got your high velocity items that you could safely mark down every day. You've got your normal items that you might want to mark down a month or every 3 months or every 6. I don't know. I think I'm going to experiment with that over the next few days and come up with some categories for that and maybe some suggestions about it in the next video. I recently picked up a few items of clothing belonging to Sir Elton John. I've got, I'm just going to throw some pictures up on the screen since I obviously don't have them with me while I'm trapped out here on my front porch having locked myself out. But I got this leather jacket here. This leather jacket has extensive paperwork with it, tracing it all the way back to an Elton John Sotheby's auction in 1988. And I've got this suit here which has distinctly less paperwork. I think I've got them up at $1,500 each, and obviously you're going to be taking offers or lowering it over time. I considered trying to auction them, but they are a consignment item, and if that was the wrong decision, I would feel like I would really be hurting my friend who brought them to me, so I don't want to do that. But I'm wondering, how would you price them? I'm not the only one stuck outside, so is Julie. We were supposed to go to the optometrist today to get her new glasses, but that did not work out because I locked myself out of the house. At least we did make it to comic book camp, and that comic book camp was actually enabled by all of you who did super chats, and you sent super thanks, and you send Julie to camp on Dibbed It. So thank you to all of you who got her that extra week of camp. On good news, as I've been mentioning in other videos, I'm tracking my net worth, and today something finally happened. And what it was is I had started another brokerage account, one where I actually picked individual stocks, but my timing was extremely bad on it, and I lost $2,000 almost instantly because I put in about $10,000 right before the tariff announcements. Not meant to be political, that was just a very bad timing to put in money. Today, that finally turned around to I now have slightly more money in that brokerage account than I actually put into it in the first place, so it has finally turned a profit. Hopefully it'll keep going up from there. And other money news is in the last week I also finally finished funding my retirement account for the year and my wife's retirement account for the year, which means that the money's going to start to stack up now. and above what we keep in reserve at all times anyway, which means I can finally start fixing up that mini truck that I bought myself as my gift to myself for losing a leg. It's been sitting unfinished with broken stuff under my back patio for years now, including the dog smashed the almost irreplaceable grill. Finally found a grill to purchase. Gonna throw me back $400 because nobody makes the grill. Mitsubishi, Dodge, they ran out of them decades ago. The only way to get one is to get one off another vehicle, and they're brittle and easily damaged. So thus they don't turn up very often. Obviously, I'm not going to put that on right away, not until the vehicle gets parked in a place where the dog will never be near it. But get the roof done, get the grill on it, get a real mechanic to repair it, because I botched the carburetor install pretty good, and hopefully maybe be on the road with it some later this fall and next spring and such. So the good news is, obviously, I finally made it back into the house. Now, bad news is that my 30-day sales are busy falling off a cliff right now, as from those 50 consoles I mentioned earlier, most of them have worked their way off my 30-day chart yet, and there's still just a couple of really high sales days that are about to fall off that 30-day chart with nothing even close to replacing it. So I'm dropping from like an 11 plus K just on eBay 30-day total to like 7,000 in the period of 1 week, because I had one really good week, and now that's off the chart. I am still getting some sales on other websites. You can use Crosslist. I've got a link down below. Get 30% off your first payment, and Crosslist will give me a little bit of money for you using my link. So hey, everybody wins there. So before I was saying I was thinking more about markdown schedules, and I finally went nuts and I restructured my store categories entirely, except for the cards. I put all the cards into one category, at least the minimum price point ones, the $2.99 ones. Before I had categories, they're like, oh, here's hats, here's clothes, here's video games. Now my categories totally different, month and year. August 2025, July 2025, and so on, back about 2 years. Then it goes clearance and final clearance. And the reason I'm doing this is so I can do extremely precise things with markdowns that would otherwise be completely impractical. I can now maintain aggressive markdown schedules on physically larger items, much slower ones on items like miniatures that are long tail and take up no space. I can identify those months where apparently I listed a whole bunch of junk and be more aggressive about marking down those months. If I've got a month from 9 months ago that I still have 1,100 items from, I was probably listing junk that month, and I probably need to mark it down faster. And eventually, as I put in some new items, I'll probably just going to have go to have dual store categories, both the date and I would edit that out, but I'm just not going to. You can have two categories at a time. So an item can be in multiple store categories. So an item can both be in hats and it can be in July 2025 at the same time. When I was redoing it, that wasn't worth trying to do. That would have made it take way too long. I already spent an entire day doing it, and honestly, it's not 100% correct, because a lot of the items I just had to guess when I listed them, because they had been relisted many times, so the date wasn't right, and it wasn't worth looking up the email of when I initially listed it for many of the items. But I got it right enough, and going forward, it's all going to be correct. So I've been working on retracting my eBay area out of my bar space. You see that downstairs in some videos. I used it a lot more in early videos, and I finally got all of the stock out of that space, other than a few golf clubs. But I've still got that bathroom crammed full of books. Not books, boxes. My idea, though, is I want to retract eBay completely out of that space, let it be its own space, so that those part of my areas aren't messing up. So I'm not constantly junking that up and then having to unjunk it, because particularly since I have a gaming night every Wednesday night, and every week I mess the whole area up, and then I have to clean it up for Wednesday night, then I seem to mess it back up again. I went out of that area completely, and that's big focus. And trying to handle what I've been trying to do for 3+ years is the last of the death pile, and I'm really getting down to the dregs, you know, just getting a box or a bin out that still somehow has unlisted stuff or bypass stuff, and quickly, you know, sort it out. That could actually be sold. That goes in the trash. This goes into a BS box or an estate sale junk drawer box. And if there's a lot of similar items, I might have a separate junk drawer box that's more focused, like I did both a video game one and an arcade parts related one. I'm just not going to sit there and list a bunch of $3, $4, and $5 items that I've been passing up for years. I just junk them all, get them all in the box, get them out of there, because I don't want to be listing $3, $4, and $5 items anymore to begin with. And I'm okay with making less money right now so I can be more functional in the future. And where I want to get at is I want to totally empty my upstairs incoming area. That's this room that we're in here. Got my photo station over there. I've got various shelves, but these shelves are mostly full. Especially the tops. I've got top stock of boxes, the top stock of pre-boxed items that I wish would sell and get out of here. I want that completely empty. And I would have 4 tubs worth of empty space on my basement shelves. You know, the big 27-gallon tubs, ones that say Commander on them if you buy them from Lowe's. And that allows me to, for sure, buy a collection that fills my minivan and bring it all inside one day and list it all and not have stuff sitting on the floor. Now, if I do bring home that kind of collection, I can bring it in and I can list it all, and I will have filled up my extraneous shelves in this listing area, but nothing sitting on the floor. That's what's important. And once I have that room, I can start looking for that minivan filling collection, because that's where I've always made my biggest money. When I fill that van is when I make the money. Because the bigger number you end up throwing out when you're buying a bunch of stuff, the cheaper you are per unit. Doesn't seem to matter what it is. You know, I can buy a stack of Warhammer stuff this big and possibly spend $100 on it. Or I can fill the entire van with Warhammer stuff and spend $3,000 and be paying 1/3 of the cost per unit, which ends up with more money for me, more money for my family. But right now, since I'm basically stuck waiting for space to empty out, I'm going to have time for more frequent videos. And when I do finally get that space that I want, I'll start going to the bins every day. And I'm actually going to walk the bins, no more wheelchair in the bins. Probably, I can't walk very well anymore, so I'm only going to try to source 5 to 10 higher value items. Those of you who are only casual viewers might not realize I'm sitting in a wheelchair right now. I'm a right leg amputee, above the knee, and I'm fatter than I look. I'm fatter than I look when you just look at my face. So walking is painful and difficult for me, and I've let it get worse over the last few years, and I need to reverse that. And so I'm going to be going to the bins just for the exercise. I don't want to be walking up and down my street for exercise. My street has a slight slope to it. Artificial knees hate slopes, and I just don't want the attention of that. I just don't. So I go to the bins every day, try to find some higher value items, make a little money, and maybe eventually get to the point where walking isn't that painful anymore. Hey, if you know anybody who is experiencing anything painful, why don't you tell them about this channel? I could use the subs. Thanks, and hope to see you again soon.